Hello, today we're gonna continue work with the molds, and our task for today is to make carbon fiber parts. If you saw the last video about it, you have to notice that they was gray color and now it's, I think, brown. It was my mistake because when we put them into the oven to cure, I have left some tape, some masking tape. It started a little bit burning. The color is just a visual flaw that doesn't affect any parts later. I polished the insides, find all the cracks or bubbles. The huge ones was fixed, and the small ones will be fixed on the final product. I hope that everything will go according to the plan. First of all, I will start just with the one pipe because it is my first time of making it, so I don't wanna mess around and waste material. The start will be with carbon fiber. Pre-preg carbon fiber is already mixed with the epoxies, which need a high temperature and vacuum to be cured correctly and prevent some bubbles or leaking spots in the parts. This is the tubes for the vacuum. We only are using this when we are making the pipes. So for example, we will lay a pre-preg in 3 layers, and when we will put a tube inside, then put our piece on the top of it, and then we will create a vacuum. The tube will expand inside, so all the surfaces will be flush with the mold. By doing this, we will gonna eliminate possibilities of bubbles or some places in the corners that can just not stick to the mold. So like I mentioned before, we're gonna start just with one pipe in order to find things which can be difficult, and I chose exactly this one because we will have here about 90-degree angle. It can be hard to put carbon fiber in one piece because of this angle. I just cut a small piece of material and tried to put in the corner. I can see that it bends not bad actually. So we will try to cut a piece of carbon fiber according to that template that I made it before. Here I marked carbon fiber direction, which have to go into the corner. Like we said, easier to bend. If you can't lay one sheet, I will put 3 of them, one in that place, one in that place, and the third one into the corner. But it's tricky because we have to align the texture. If I put one piece in that place and other than that, some lines may transfer over it and don't align correctly. This is not for strength, but I want to make it look as clean and neat as possible. I forgot to mention that carbon fiber pre-preg requires special storing. So here we have a freezer, and if we're not using it around a month or 2 or half a year, we have to put them in the freezer and hold it in minus 18 degrees Celsius. If you're gonna use it in a few weeks, you can just store it in room temperature. If you keep it too long in the room temperature, it can harden and just become a huge pipe. And also, when you take out the carbon fiber from the fridge, it needs to lay in room temperature about 24 hours, because if you peel out the protective film, it can condensate, because pre-preg will be about minus 18 degrees and room temperature is 20 degrees, so it can ruin all the material. I'm just marking the direction of the material, so it would be easier for me to understand in what direction I need to cut my templates. So this direction I will be needed. I can align template that matches the material. First piece will gonna be here, and then continue in that direction. I'm gonna mark it a little bit bigger, because when you put paper into the form, you actually have a lot of wrinkles in some places. So don't really know how many material will expand. So if I get short somewhere, I will have to cut another one, and it will be more waste than we actually needed. Here I marked which side will be the first, because there is a little difference between them. Here we have a connecting line into the molds between them. So the first layer of the carbon I will put on that side, because they have to be flush with the flanges. So here we have opposite angles. It's just easier to cut it down, because everything goes down. In this case we have, call it a hill, so it's hard with a knife to cut in that direction when you need a flush surface. On this part, like I said, the first layer gonna put flush with the flanges. The second one will go a little bit deeper, and the third one more deeper. On the other side, we'll put the first layer to connect with this one. On the drawing it shows like that, but when we put pressure inside, that sheet will stick to the side of the mold and the rest of it. So here we have a strong bond between two pieces, and it will glue together and became one strong material. So now we can try to put carbon fiber. It is a little bit stiff, because here we have now around 17 degrees. By using prepreg, temperature should be 17 or 20 degrees. If it's too thick and hard to press into corners, you can heat a little bit with a heat gun. Not too much, but a little bit to make it more pliable. Before we cure, if you can see, there is a little holes, because it's a cloth, it's normal. But when we will compress it, put a vacuum and heat it, all the spots will be cured, will be covered with the epoxy, with this in the material. Here I see that will be not enough material, so we have to slide a little bit and start from the bottom center. Here we have a huge tension by the feel, but maybe it will stick. And here we have a sensor place. So I think to manage, put carbon into that corners, we will have to cut some window to it to release the strength between material. And also it's hard to bend material down, because when I press here, it becomes wrinkled here. Like I mentioned, maybe we will have to use some heat to make it easier. The first layer is done. I think I managed to pop out all the bubbles, and it should be okay. And now I want to put the first layer on the second part, because I don't want to miss the material texture direction. I will take the same template and try to match them, and after that we will put another layers. It will be a lot easier, because inside layers will be no visible, so we can put how it went. Now I have to cut the excess material. My plan was to use cutted parts on the template to mark them, and cut a little bit smaller piece for the another one, in order not to waste the material. But what I learned of that, when you put the material into a pipe, it stretches, bends, and this is not exactly the part what I can put on the template, so I think I will cut another one the same, and the second layer is just a little bit smaller and smaller. Maybe it will work. When I tried to put a carbon fiber into place, I noticed that one side is stickier than other and it's hard to place in the right spots. So I decided to use that cutted piece onto the other side, because it is cut out in the same direction, and the sticker part in the right spot. So I need to cut another part, which the sticker part facing the mold. So the other part is done. Now I have to cut a little bit higher than the flanges, because that part will overlap into this place to make a strong bond. It don't have to be perfectly straight. It's just for the toughness of the part. And it's also really tricky to cut perfectly straight in that angles. I just finished laying all the layers, and now I want to show you what I meant about overlapping. So here we have one layer, this is the second layer, and this is the third layer. So on the other half we have first, second, and third. So the last layer will over around here. All the layers are covering each other, so we have a strong bond between the connection part. Actually, we have some fail with the inside sleeve, because this is smaller diameter than I wanted. Actually, it measures like that. It is 10 centimeters, and when you make it into a pipe, you have 5 centimeters. So it's not enough to cover the inside, so carbon fiber don't glue to the sides of the molds. So we have to make a decision to glue two pipes together. It actually should work, so I think we will see when we have to demold it. I have finished bagging. All the spots looks pretty good, so now we can test the vacuum. I definitely know that it will be some leaks, but we will find out. When it shrinks a little bit, we have to check all the spots and corners to avoid some bridging, like the bag will stay like this, so we can break in that point. You can see clearly how pressure drops, so it means we have a hole. I think it's over here, because it sounds like that. So now you have to go around and check all the connection points to find the leaking spot. Finally, we managed to find all the leaking spots and fix it, and now it's time to put it in the oven and cure it. This is the oven what we built by ourselves, because we need it not only for small parts, but we will use it for bigger parts. The shelf, we can just take it out and, for example, make a bonnet or bumpers and all the stuff that is big. Here we have one line for the second floor and other line for the bottom floor, and in that corner we have all the controls. Also have barometers to know what minus pressure we have for the upper part and for the bottom part. So let's program it, put in a vacuum pump, and we can start. Here we have easy composites data sheets for the curing Prepreg. I'm using step-by-step program, how I recommend it to do it. Like you can see, here the first step we have 20 degrees for about an hour, 50 minutes. Then we have to raise the temperature to 70 degrees and then 120. Like you can see, all the cycle take about 7 hours. I think we will took about 8 hours, just to be sure. And then let it cool down in just a room temperature. And you can try to peel it off and see what happened. We made it easier for ourselves because we decided to use an app in a telephone to put all the cycles, because in this controller it's a little bit difficult. So you can see there is just 4 buttons and you have them to achieve all the curing times. So use an app, it's really simple. So we can turn it on and leave it for 8 hours. Well, the moment of truth. We actually had some difficulties because we left to cook it overnight, and when I came in the morning I saw that everything is shut down. I don't know actually why, because when we tried another time it worked perfectly, and now we can see what we have. I think we can put on the table and pack it out. From the outside it looks good, so we can cut it out. Here you can see that we had some leaks, so I have to double tape it. Here we have epoxy leaks from the Prepreg, but it's normal because it came from the connecting points. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, this piece. Finally we managed to take out the inner tube. It was hard enough because of that 90-degree angle, so it glues together with the sides and it's hard not to peel some leftovers. Now we can move on, and first of all I want to trim some edges because they glue together with epoxy on the outer side. So I will clean it up and then we can unbolt it. Here we have a problem.
So you will have to use resin to fix it?
Yep.
A little bit destroyed. We are happy with the joint. Quite happy.
Quite happy. Okay, the last part. here it is a problem, I think. So I will try to put a knife under that first, because our mold is already not in that good shape. So we can use a knife now.
Mold number 2 destroyed.
But pipe looks good. Why it's glued so hard? Not so hard. I think maybe we had a little bit of center.
Yeah.
Going from that point to that point. Lot of cracks. I'm quite happy with the result. We have some pinholes, not some actually. It is pinholes. But we had a little vacuum leak, so we had pinholes because of that. But it's fixable. Also we have to trim connecting corners and then polish all together. And like you saw, we have some epoxy cracks, so we need to fill that cracks with epoxy. But also it's fixable. So I'm quite happy. We have to continue with another one. After the first demolding, I thought that second one would be easier, but it was really hard because of some corners were really stuck. First 3 parts was not so bad, but the last one was really hard. So after 1.5 hours of struggling, I decided to take a break because I was at the point where I will be breaking it or cutting it. And after relaxing my mind, I came back and finally managed to release the last part. Here we have a second pipe, and what I can see that there was lack of epoxy. I think it can be a few reasons. First of all, maybe a vacuum leak, and the second one, it was placed like that, so maybe not enough vacuum and epoxy can't reach the top of the mold because of the position. But that's just my thoughts. Other half looks pretty good. Here we have some failure because of few times demolding, putting inside sleeve and repeating it. We have some overlapping, not like it's supposed to be, but it would be covered in the bottom, so no one will see it, except of you now. Also, the hard part was to mold this piece, because it goes in here, so it was hard to remove it. But all the carbon directions looks pretty good. Here we have pinholes like in the first pipe, but that's not so bad because we have a filler. So after trimming all the rough edges, we will fill it. As you can see, we have some leftovers from the molds. It's not bad for the pipe, but bad for the molds. Here you can see what I mean. You have some cracked pieces, also some crack in the surface. Everything is correctable. I don't know if we will make more pipes like that for that car. I will fix it, but until that, I don't think I do anything about it. Like I mentioned before, it was my first try of doing such molds and working with carbon fiber. So there is few things what I learned about it. First of all, that broken corners, I think they broke because of too thick layer of the gel coat, because it slided down into the corners. If the layer would be the correct thickness, it I think wouldn't happen like that. Second thing, for that complex shapes are really important to find the center. Even if 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters are off center, it's really hard to remove it. And I think the last thing for that type of forms, personally I don't need that triangles for right positioning, because when you make a mold, you drill holes exactly the same size of your holding bolts, and they don't go anywhere, because you can't slide it in any direction. It was a little bit annoying because when I was trying to cut the carbon with a knife, it was in a way, so it was disturbing me. And the last thing, what we learned about shaping the spots for the sensors. It would be better if that side would be in an angle, because now it was hard to remove it, and we have some epoxy struggles, some cracking when demolding, so it would be better to make it in an angle, so it would be much easier to remove it. And what's left with these pipes, like I mentioned, to trim everything, sand it, fill the pinholes, and then give it to Matas to make aluminum flanges for turbo, for breather, and here we don't need any flanges, it just goes the hose. And I think that's it. Maybe in the second episode about flat pipes you will see them in the car. Well, maybe some of you have some experience with working with carbon fiber and such molds. Please share your opinion, share your tips, we will really appreciate it. And please like, share, subscribe, and see you in next episodes.